You ready?
Got it.
Welcome back to the Revive Podcast, everybody. Today we're here with Mr. Chuck Walker from BedlamHour. How are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, Owen. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yes, sir. Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Chuck, and I am the founding member, band leader, primary songwriter, lead singer, multi-instrumentalist for the band BedlamHour.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm involved in South Carolina hardcore for 40 years
Of
and
course.
just got back into it in 2022 when our band got back together after about a 27-year vacation.
Yeah, so what made you guys want to get back together?
Well, it's so interesting. When we were together before, we were active from 1983 to really 1997. And it was always, as it is with a lot of punk rock bands, always the band was going on, but we always had other things happening, whether it was
Right.
college, grad school, or working or whatever. But, we kept it going and did a lot of touring in summertime and stuff like that. But in 1995, I became a father and actually also started my career as a school teacher. And I
Yes,
had
sir.
just made a commitment that as long as I was a father with kids in the house that were not independent, that I was going to take a break from the music business
Yeah.
and at least, the secular music business. And then my kids grew up and they're wonderful independent adults with their own lives and families and things like that.
Yeah.
Empty. So that was the first thing that kind of got me back into it. The second thing was I survived skin cancer last year, and when you're a cancer survivor,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. It changes your perspective on life, and you start to think about your priorities, especially at
Yeah.
age 58 this year. So that was the other thing. And then finally, I became a granddad for the first time.
I'm
And
very excited. I'd love to talk about that.
oh man, of course. Oh, I can talk about my grandbaby all day. So when Fifi was born, that kind of just changes things. And I had a lot of things to write about, to think about. And so that all, plays into the songs that became the most recent BedlamHour record.
Right.
So the concept of, keeping that commitment to, stay off the road, stay home, raise my kids. Secondly, surviving the cancer and then becoming a granddad, that all kind of, lined up together and the stars were lined up just right, along with, new technology for recording and for promotion and touring. And it's really a great time to be involved in music, especially our kind of music, because if you're coming at it from a punk rock, hardcore, DIY perspective, there are so many more tools now, like what we're doing today with your wonderful podcast,
Yes,
to
sir.
get the word out, to promote shows, and really just to have fun. So it's all about the fun and just the love of music and the love of, our family and friends.
Right. And my dad told me you teach podcasting. Is that correct?
That is correct. Actually,
Yeah.
yes. I work at a charter school and I teach English and journalism. And a big part of our journalism curriculum is podcasting. Yeah. So,
What made you want to do that as like a big professional career?
well, I always knew for my job that actually pays the bills, I was probably going to be in education because my whole family is educators. My wife's
Right.
an educator, my daughter's an educator, my grandma was an educator, my brother's an educator, my mom worked at Winthrop in the textbook department. So education has always been a big part of our family, and so I knew eventually that was going to happen. It's kind of funny though, because originally I was thinking about being a social studies teacher because I love
Oh,
history.
cool.
And my wife is a teacher. And when we were engaged, she was already teaching, and I was working in a different field. I was working in accounting. And we were talking about teaching if I went back to grad school to get my teaching degree, because I have a journalism degree from undergrad. And I said, yeah, I really like history. And she said, well, if you teach history, you're going to have to coach something. Well, I'm not very sporty. I could be maybe like the assistant to the assistant of the cross country coach and drive the truck around with the cooler or something like
Of
that. So,
course.
but I do love to read and I love to write. And so English actually was the path that I chose when I got my master's degree. And I love English because you can incorporate music, you can incorporate history, you can incorporate social issues, all kinds of things into the curriculum. And so you have more, in my opinion, more tools to reach the kids and to inspire them to want to learn. And so, along with English comes journalism a lot of times. So, when I got my first teaching job, no experience, coming out with a master's degree, just married, 26 years old, just got off the road from a European tour, BedlamHour,
Oh
slept
yeah.
the teacher. Uh, the boss that hired me, the principal that hired me for the first job, he said, Mr. Walker, I like your qualifications. I tell you what, I've got a job for you, and I've got a friend that's got a job for your wife at the elementary school. If you'll do the yearbook. I'm like, okay, I'll do the yearbook. And so that yearbook advisor job, you use all those journalism skills that I had learned, from really undergraduate, and really a lot of the skills that I learned, as a punk rock singer, and working with young people in the punk rock scene, I used in the high school classroom, and then come full circle doing that for 30 years. And then using those teaching skills and journalism skills that are more contemporary now to help me as I re-enter the punk rock world. And so it's kind of cool how everything works together on your life journey.
Yeah. And my mom actually has been a teacher for, she's gonna get mad at me for saying this because I don't actually know how long. It's been about just over 20 years, I think. She taught ASL for a long time, and then she taught first grade, and now she's a reading interventionist, and she absolutely loves it.
Yes, same. I absolutely love it as well. And I'm not going to say how long Mrs. Walker's been teaching. She's way off, but she's over here working on schoolwork right now. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but I really do love it. I mean, to me, I'm actually living the dream because my heart is in the classroom and my heart is in punk rock. So to be able to do both is really a blessing, and they complement each other.
Right. And your lyrics are very when I did some studying, your lyrics are very heartfelt. They're very touching for I think a lot of people. Would you say that's true?
Well, I do write what's on my heart, and I think a lot about what I'm going to say before I say it most of the time. Now, when I was in my 20s, not so much, but now I'm really trying to just point people in a positive direction and encourage people because, with everything going on in society and all the pressure, especially on young people and really on all ages of people, I just want to make sure that if I have an opportunity to entertain somebody with, a song that I recorded or something I'm performing live, I want to try to be as encouraging as possible. And then I'm sure that my faith, which is important to me, does come out in that as well. And that's just having faith in God, but also having faith in positive thinking that folks can overcome obstacles with the
Right.
right mind.
Right. And I will say you guys in BedlamHour are very interactive. You guys brought me and my dad up on stage and Mr. David, and you guys were bringing a lot of people up there. Is there any reason you guys are so interactive with everybody?
I just love people, and I'm so thankful that folks actually came out to see us. That I just want to make sure that they're involved, and I think that's a big part of hardcore is getting people involved. Because it's not really just about the band; it's about the band, and it's about their friends, and it's about everybody that's there to support the show. It's about the audience, and I just love that interaction. And
Right.
that particular night, I really enjoyed that interaction. Additionally, because it turns out I had strep but didn't know it, and
Oh,
my voice
really?
fried. So the more interaction, the better. But
Oh,
but even without a fried voice, we would still do that. And loved having y'all up on stage. That was so much fun, and it sounds amazing.
oh
We
yeah.
actually recorded that show. You heard it first here on Owen's podcast, the Revive podcast. That show is going to be our new live album, Live Bedlam. It sounds incredible. I just heard it.
Boom.
Yep. So look for it in the fall, kids.
Yes, sir.
Live, live 2023 at New Brooklyn Tavern. And
Yeah.
you're on it.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, yeah, that song will be on there, bro. It sounds awesome.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
have to let
super.
my family know. That's awesome. I appreciate that so much.
Oh no, that's going to be an awesome live record. And then uh, there is some talk about a concert film of that particular weekend, and we've
Yeah.
had a couple of film crews out there working on things. So we'll see how all that goes too. But the live album looks like it's definitely gonna drop. Yeah, so that's
Right.
good.
And when we were at New Brooklyn, when I saw you guys, New Brooklyn Tavern, downtown Columbia, I believe someone told me your daughter was your vocal coach or something in that matter.
So on the song Regeneration, my daughter Dylan, who was born in 1995,
Yeah.
uh, sings on that song. So she's on that record singing it along with Billy Riot from Soda City Riot. And then Dylan and her boyfriend Andy are our merchandise managers whenever we
Oh,
can get them to
cool.
Orleans. And so they were working the merch table. But Dylan also came up and sang with me on that song Regeneration. And so it's really cool. It's definitely a family type band in terms of trying to get as many people involved as possible whenever I can get my family together. But for that particular weekend, Dylan and Andy were able to come up and go with us to the show. So that was really cool.
Right. And how was it to have her, in your corner knowing that she's there watching you?
Man, it was absolutely the best.
I'm glad. I love to hear that.
And then I got really shocked when Dylan, after she performed, was back down, in the pit. Said, "Daddy, look, mommy's in the pit." So I looked down and I was, oh my gosh, Sherry's in the pit. But now we're still, when you're 20, I'm gonna tell something on Sherry real quick.
Oh yeah.
She's a pit veteran. My wife, we're gonna be married 32 years August 3rd. She broke her butt bone at a Soundgarden concert in the pit
Oh,
back late 80s. So when they were on SST. So anyway, so she's old school, but we've discovered that at our age, with participation comes healing. So you did something to your shoulder. Her shoulder's messed up, but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, she's all right. And then my voice, as you can hear, I'm kind of more of a Tom Waits type singer now, but I think I have a new permanent gravelly voice from that weekend, but it's good. I did a
yeah.
show for it last week and everything's cool. It's punk rock, so whatever. Got to
Yeah.
keep rolling. The show must go on. But yeah, so it was cool to have the family there, and it was just a lot of fun. It really
Right.
great time. And then last weekend we played in New York, and my other daughter and her family and my grandbaby live in New York, so it was super cool for my daughter and her boyfriend to come out and see us at the show in New York because my kids had never seen me, as a hardcore lead singer. They
Right.
never seen it. It's the first time for them, so they enjoyed it, and they could see that I have a lot of joy when I'm up there. So that was nice for them to see their dad in sort of a different way.
Right. And I was gonna say were they with you just for those two shows? The one in Myrtle Beach and you guys did the one in New Brooklyn?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Dylan and
Right.
Andy were at both of those shows, and then last weekend it was is Flannery, my other daughter, and her family were there. Not the baby, of course, too loud.
Right. Whenever I go to those shows, I always wanted to mosh pit, but it's sometimes they're a little too crazy. So sometimes I keep my distance, but then when it's not as big of a crowd, I definitely get in there, I do some swinging a little bit, but I try my best not to hurt anybody.
Yeah, no,
Uh
that's
yeah, so me and my friends, we always go to the very front. And because that's just where the most action happens. You hear it the best and everything. And we always keep tabs on each other and make sure each other's doing okay because part of it is watching the music and watching who's behind you and
that's
making
right.
sure you're not about to get swung on or hit. And I think that's just so funny. I love how that works.
Yeah, it's a nervous energy. It's a lot
It
of fun,
is.
and it's anticipation, and you're definitely in the moment in this highly emotional, entertaining music. But at the same time, it's a little bit scary because you're kind of watching around to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can remember back in the '80s going to see the Meatmen play in Atlanta for their War Superbikes tour, and absolutely loved that band back in the day. Still like them, and I just remember, you know, the opening band had finished. I think Scream opened for them actually. So Scream had just finished up. We'd played with Scream a couple of times before other places, And then it got all dark, and I was right up front, just like you're talking about. And then the drums started. It was still dark. There was a smoke machine. And then all I remember at that point was a Doc Martin boot just pressing on my forehead as some skinhead guy climbed over me to get up on the stage. So you never know what's gonna come at you. That's for sure.
Right, and
Uh,
I just saw a band at New Brooklyn Tavern actually last weekend called Waste, and I've never seen people bring their own lighting. So most
oh wow.
people just yeah, most people just use the blue lights that they have there already, like the LED bars, but they
Right.
brought like their own lighting and their own pyros. So it would go pitch black, then it would like start like flashing, and then it would go red. And when it would go pitch black, we'd have to turn around, and then as soon as it would open back up, you could see people just running around. It was the most
Oh.
scariest thing ever. But it was worth it. It was a great show. But I mean, oh, it was so scary not being able to see who's next to you
Oh
because
God.
there was no lighting because I think they had turned the lights off at the bar as well. So when it went dark, the whole building was pitch black, and then they'd stop the music and then they'd turn back on as soon as the lights would turn on. And oh man, it was crazy.
Oh man, that sounds fun though. That's one of those
Yeah.
things you offer.
Yes, and I will forever remember that. They opened up for a band called Prison, and
Uh-huh.
they were also playing with Weeping Wound. Outstanding bands. They did great. Prison was very interactive, just like you guys. He actually, the lead singer from Prison actually jumped in the crowd and had everyone sit down, which was kind of
Well,
kind of nasty. But he had us all sit down. He was like, "When this beat drops, I want you all to get up and jump." And everyone got up and started jumping up and down. It was so crazy.
I'm gonna take that down in my notebook. That sounds like
You got to
a good
do that. You got to get you ever are you one of those guys that is like real into it when you're playing a show, like jumping up and down, running around, or are you now just kind of in your corner?
Well, I try to be as into it as physically possible.
Of course.
So last weekend I was able to pogo a little bit with the kids during Frankenbrain Mosh, so that was fun. But yeah, I try to be as interactive as possible. If you remember at New Brooklyn, I did a stage dive, but you know what's funny that a lot of people in that crowd were in our crowd back in the early '90s, late '80s when they were teenagers, and they used to catch me all the time.
Right.
Well, now they're 45 and 50, and they're not so into catching people. So they tried.
Right. And did you get hurt?
Oh no, 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 it's
Okay.
okay. It was me and my buddy Johnny Fink from Missing Fink Records. We kind of took a spill together, but it was okay. I think we
Yeah.
cushioned it, so it was fine. But yeah, so but yeah, I think just staying active and being interactive with the crowd is always fun, and goofy dancing or whatever the mood strikes.
Of course. Well, I'm going to ask you a few basic questions that, everyone would like to know. Is that okay with you?
Sure, no problem.
I'm going to first ask you where you met everybody and what made you want to start a band with them.
Okay, well, that's a really good question. So I grew up in Rock Hill, South Carolina. If you know where Carowinds is, it's right there,
Yes,
on
sir.
the way. And so basically, I always loved music, and music's been a big part of my family, a big part of my life. I have two brothers and a sister, and we all sang in the choir. And one of my brothers and my sister are really good guitar players, and then one of my brothers, this one right here, uh,
Cool. You came
Johnny.
prepared.
Yeah, I got props, man. I
Yeah.
even got inspiration from Brian of ACDC.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, so this is my brother Johnny holding the saxophone.
Yeah, and he was up there playing at New Brooklyn Tavern, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so he's a multi instrumentalist. So surrounded by music. And the earliest band I did was in elementary school, and it it was kind of a band. It was more of just us pretending to be in a band. But my buddy Mike and my buddy Jay and we loved. This is like 1975. I was 9 or 10. We loved Aerosmith, and I had these bongos that Johnny gave me, and I think Mike had like a guitar with two or three strings on it, like an acoustic guitar. and Jay had the Aerosmith album. So we'd walk over to Waverly Drive to Jay's house and we'd play the Aerosmith album. And we just kind of beat on that drum and dance and sing to the Aerosmith record.
Yeah.
So that was, but then about that same year, I got an acoustic guitar. My dad bought me an acoustic guitar from the J.C. Penney catalog, like a student model for like $39, which was a lot of money. It'd be like a $200 guitar now.
Right.
And I started kind of, tinkering around on it. And Johnny and my sister Susie showed me a couple of chords, and I got a chord book, started writing songs. Fast forward, 7th grade, I go to junior high. We didn't have middle school, we had junior high, grades 7 through 9. And there was a certain Saturday, if you wanted to be in the band, that you had to go, meet with the people that were going to rent you the instruments and talk to the band director and see what instrument you were going to play. Well, that particular Saturday, my scout troop was picking up trash along a highway. And so I didn't get to go to the place to rent a lot right before they're getting ready to close. So everybody had already gotten all the instruments. And I thought I was going to play clarinet, but I had really bad buck teeth. It was before I got braces. I could eat corn through a picket wire fence. And so the only 2 instruments left were flute and percussion. And the guy said, well, son, you're not going to be able to play the flute because of my teeth. And so I picked up percussion, fell in love with it, got involved with the drums, learned the drum set, got really good at it, just like you're doing right now.
Thank you.
And so that opened up some doors, because if you're a good drummer, as you already know, you can pretty much write your own ticket for jobs.
Yes, sir, you can.
Drummer, because there aren't that many. To be honest, there aren't that many. So to be an excellent drummer is a real, door opener. So I did all-state jazz band and all this stuff. It got me a lot of opportunities. So when I got to high school, I started playing in garage bands, and this is like 1979, and I was still writing original stuff. And at that point, I loved Devo, the B-52s, the Cars. This was new wave, was the music style of the time. Loved all those. And then around 10th grade, I wrote a single, and it was under the name Metaphysical in the Membranes. It was kind of a quirky keyboard-based new wave dance song. So I recorded that single. My band director had a studio, recorded his studio. Everything was cool. And then after that, our public library in Rock Hill, I don't know if you realize this, but Rock Hill is the home of Winthrop University. It's there.
Okay.
And it's a liberal arts school, and a lot of cool people end up going to school there. Well, somebody from Winthrop that was interning at the public library must have been cool, because the record collection at the public library started getting some really awesome records. So one record they got was the Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. Then they got Frank Zappa's Apostrophe, and then they got a record by this really good prog rock band called UK that was recorded live in Japan, Night After Night. So I checked out all those records. Then I won a Clash record in a radio contest, so I heard the Clash. And so my music tastes were starting to evolve more into the punky, proggy realm. My favorite band was Rush, saw them in concert. But things really changed in the summer between 11th and 12th grade. It was the summer of 1982. And being the youngest of 4 kids, I have siblings that are much older than me. And so one of my brothers had just graduated graduate school and got a nice job in aerospace engineering out in LA. So he lived in Torrance, California, right at Redondo Beach. And I got to go out there for the summer for like a birthday present from my parents. They bought me a plane ticket. And so when I got there, it was cool. And, during the daytime he'd work, and I'd ride his bike up to Venice Beach and stuff like that. Everything was cool. He came home one day, he said, "Hey, you like new wave music, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I like new wave music." He said, "Well, a buddy of mine at work told me about a new wave concert Friday night." I'm like, "Cool." He said, "Okay, I'll get tickets." Oh, that's great. So the concert was at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and it wasn't exactly new wave. It was the hardcore band Fear. So Fear was the first ever hardcore show, and I'd never seen. I mean, I'm from Rock Hill, and it's before the internet. I'd never seen slam dancing, moshing. Moshing wasn't invented yet. Slam dancing, stage diving, people acting crazy, all that stuff. I hadn't seen all that, and man, it was great. So there we go upstairs. I see all these people with like customized clothes that they drew on their own clothes. They made their own clothes. They were had cool weird haircuts and shaved heads and all this stuff. And so the first band comes out. It's this skate band called Aggression. I think they were on Posh Boy Records back in the day. And that's when I see my first ever stage show. I'm like, oh, look at that. That's cool. I tell my
Awesome.
brother, that's so awesome looking. What are they doing? Oh, those guys fight. No, I think they're dancing. So anyway, that was cool. But then between those two bands, this is right before MTV went on the air. This video screen comes down, like you would see it in school, like a video
Yeah,
movie.
right.
And apparently, the record labels had already started making like beta tapes or something of videos. So they start playing this video by this top 40 band called the Motels, and they had a nice little pop song called Only the Lonely, but not punk rock at all. The next thing I know, the kids in that audience are throwing beer cans or whatever
Oh my gosh.
at that screen, and then some kid sets the screen on fire, and it goes up in a blaze of glory while the video is playing. It looked like something from a horror movie. They got
That's
the
too
fire.
much.
Then Fear comes out, and Lee Veen, who really is a delightful person in real life, but he plays that character on stage, almost like Alice Cooper does. He gets out there. He's picking fights with people in the audience. He's calling people all kinds of names. He's saying all kinds of wordy dirds and stuff. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. But it really made an impact. And so I remember it, still remember to this day. And then they had a station, they still have it out there, KROQ. I don't know what their format is now, but they were kind of new wavy. And on Sunday nights, they had this show called the Young Marquis and Stanley Show. And they would play kind of what you would call alternative music today. So they played a lot of import stuff. So it was the first time I ever heard Flock of Seagulls or XTC or Simple Minds. None of that stuff was popular here in South Carolina. So I heard all that stuff for the first time. Sparks, a lot of really cool bands. And then they played a couple of local punky kind of things. Like I think they played TV Party by Black Flag or something like that. So I was just exposed to a lot of music. Billy Idol was just coming out as a solo artist. So, it was cool. So I made a tape of that stuff, cassette tape. And I was already in a couple of, garage bands. So I went back home and I played it for my buddies and said, okay, cool. Because we've been playing, some cool stuff, but more like classic rock kind of stuff. Hey, let's try these songs. So we learned all the songs on that little tape, and we formed a band called OU812. Now it's senior year of high school. And meanwhile, I'm still writing songs. And so I wrote this song called Teacher. It was kind of a cool little punk rock song. And for Christmas 82, my parents gave me an hour of studio time. And so I went in with some of my buddies and we recorded that song Teacher. And that was the birth of the band BedlamHour. And then when I graduated high school, I went to USC in Columbia and I worked at WUSC. And I was able to submit my tape. And so our songs started getting played on that college station. Then it got picked up on a bunch of college stations. And then we started playing shows. And our first show, I think, was May 10th, 1984 at a club called The Beat that's now gone now, but it was on Assembly Street, not far from the State House. And that's kind of how we got started. And then from there, it just kind of took off and we stayed as busy as we wanted to stay. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And while you were talking about your drummer, you yourself are a very good drummer. I've seen the videos on your Instagram, I believe. And your drummer, Derek Roddy, actually plays for a pretty big band called Anthrax.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. So Derek joined us back in '92. And basically what happened was I've always been blessed with really cool people in the band and really talented people. So even though I'm the only original member, since '83, I'm still friends with everybody that's ever been in the band, and they're all great. So our first drummer was Doug Throckmorton, and then Doug ended up going and playing with Anti-Scene, a great punk rock band from Charlotte. And then we had Scott Fry, who played on the Rock the Cradle record. And then after Scott left to go play with Channel Zero, then we had Brent Long, and we were getting ready to go on a tour in '92. And Brent had an opportunity to go do a research project. He was a biology major, so he couldn't go on the tour. And so we had just a couple of days to put everything together. And so I knew Derek. Derek was our friend because he was in the speed metal band, The Boning Method, and Derek worked at Star Music. So Derek was a good friend of ours, good friend of the band. At the time, I think he was 19 and just really, really talented. And so I asked him, I said, hey, listen, we're getting ready to go on tour for, 6 weeks. It's summertime. Do you think you would be able to go? And he said, well, let me check with my parents and everything. And so Adam and I actually went over and met with Mr. and Ms. Roddy, and they could see that we were, straight up guys and, not, crazy party animals or whatever.
Right.
Nothing wrong with people. That just wasn't our vibe. So, so they said, yeah, okay, he can go. And so I gave Derek a cassette of our tour set that we were going to be playing. And he learned it in about 3 hours. And then the
Mm.
next day, we load up the van and we go over to Derek's house and pick him up. His mom's so sweet. She had a big box of snacks and a big cooler of soft drinks and stuff. Well, y'all be careful and, get Derek, call us, let us know what's going on. And then we took off, and that's how Derek joined our band. But he's really he was a child prodigy. He took lessons for a while, but even at the age of 7, he'd get like to the third lesson. He was really more skilled than whoever was teaching him. So just really talented musician on all kinds of instruments, with a passion for percussion. And so, so Derek went off and played with us. And then we had our last tour in '94. We toured Europe, had a wonderful time. And you can see that on our YouTube channel. We have some old tour documentaries and stuff from back then that I uploaded, 6 months ago for everybody to watch. But after that, we took a break, pretty much. And, I kind of got knuckled down, started doing the teaching thing and just trying to, grow up a little bit, do what I need to do. And all the other fellas got really busy, and Derek got really busy in music production. But he moved to Florida, and he, obviously with his immense talent, his wonderful personality, he had a lot of opportunities, and he was a groundbreaking drummer in the death metal scene. He played with Hate Eternal, Malevolent Creation, Nile, got into production, produced a lot of legendary death metal albums from several great bands, toured the world, and then he got signed up. He got involved with Derek, if you watch this, be sure to add in the comments or whatever. But he got involved with the early internet with online lessons and really established himself as a music educator. And he wrote several books, The History of Blast Beats and all kinds of other books that came with instructional DVDs and things. And then he got picked up by several drum companies, stick companies, cymbal companies. I think he endorses DW and Meinl right now, all kinds of other things. So, he's really done well. He's really been blessed with his talent. And so out of all of that, he's well known. I mean, very well known, probably
Right.
top 10 in the world as far as being known as a drummer. And so, he's friends with the guys in Anthrax, and Charlie from Anthrax is also playing in Pantera. And as you know, Pantera is out doing some shows. So when Charlie does the Pantera shows, Derek plays for Anthrax. And so that's how that happens. And so, we try to work around everybody's schedules, whatever's going on with their personal life or jobs or music career. And Derek has been really blessed. And he deserves every bit of success he has. And I'm just honored to have all the guys on the team, but Derek's such a valuable member, bringing everything he brings to that drum set. You saw him play live.
Oh yeah.
That, and I don't have to worry about a thing with BedlamHour because they're holding it down for me. All I've got to do is engage the audience because
Right.
they take care of all the music. So even if I compose the music, they take care of it live, and I love that.
Yeah. And I've got I'm trying to point to it. There we go. I've got a two manual. I don't know how you say it.
I think it's Meinl. I think so.
Minel. I've got two Minel symbols right here, and then I got another one right. Where is it? Right there. I got all
Oh, I
three of
love
those. Yeah. And I've had
cool.
those. They've lasted me quite a while. I've been drumming on this kit right here for 6 years, and I haven't had any problems with those cymbals. They're still in great condition and everything.
Yeah, they're great. With my kid, I play them too. So
Yeah.
they're just good workhorse cymbals. They remind me a little bit of the old Paiste cymbals mixed with Zildjian a little bit. So they're kind of rugged like a Paiste, but they have that, that Zildjian finesse, or sort of like a more subtle but heavy at the same time. It's just not like all bell and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
The
it's kind
Zildjian ones are,
and your warm sound.
yeah, the Zildjian ones I was gonna say are really nice, but they're so expensive.
Yeah, I can't afford them.
No, me neither.
My
It's okay
cymbals,
to say it.
so I'm like, and then
Yeah.
there's a really cool drum store down here in Merle's Inlet called The Different Drum, and they have, oh man, if you ever come down to the beach, I gotta take you there. They have probably like 75 used drum sets in there, and there's a ton of cymbals, all kinds of world percussion, ancient drums that are like 150-year-old snare drum and stuff. I mean, it's cool. So I did pick up like a China cymbal in there, but mostly I'm using those vinyls, and I do like it.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as I can still, if as long as I can still slap those cymbals, then I'm good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So the very first Stretch Armstrong 7-inch album
Yes.
was a split album between Stretch Armstrong and BedlamHour. What
Uh
made you
huh.
guys want to be on that with them?
Well, so of course, I've known your father for a really long time,
Of
probably
course.
over 35 years, if not longer, 36, 37, a long time, probably since 86, 85, 86. So Scott Dempsey, who plays guitar in the band, Fat Scott was at our New York show last week, and it was so great to see him. Scott was working at the WUSC radio station, and so I graduated college with my bachelor's degree in '87, and I went back to college in '91, and I was a graduate advisor for the radio station at the time for a couple of years. And so, obviously we knew Stretch Armstrong because we were doing some shows with Stretch, but also, we worked with Scott at the radio station, and we just kind of 7 inches were getting a little bit cheaper to print at that time, and we just collaborated. We decided together with those guys, hey, it'd be cool to put something out. And so we recorded the American technology side of that record over at Jay's Jam Room, and then Stretch had two tracks on that record, really
Oh yeah.
really good. Yeah, great, and great performance, and really strong. And I love their artwork. I wish our artwork would have been that cool, but I just love that 7 inch. And those were actually printed. I actually don't think I own one. A couple of the guys in the band might have them, but I used to have one. I've got it somewhere. I've got like this big storage thing of punk rock stuff I'm kind of going through. But we had that kind of in the swirly blue vinyl, and it was really a beautiful record, and well received, and obviously was a doorway for Stretch Armstrong to just move on to do greater and greater things, as they did and continue to do.
Right. And you also owned a club called Ape City that my dad said he used to go to a long time ago, and he used to go there all the time. What made you want to start your own club?
Well, it was basically just we saw a need. We saw a need for an all ages place, that was drug and alcohol free, that was not expensive, where people could go and have a good time and hear music that wasn't necessarily super popular, as far as like a huge draw, but at the same time would give new bands an opportunity to kind of develop their skills. And so we had a warehouse where we practiced. It was our practice space basically. But every couple of weeks or so, we would have a show in there, and usually it'd be like a $5 or less admission. But we had a relationship with the Salvation Army of Colombia for their food bank, and so if kids brought like a canned good, or they brought dry goods or something like that, then they got like $2 off. So it was like $3 to get in. And so we had a lot of great bands playing there, a lot of local bands, a lot of regional bands. We had some big bands playing there. We had Screeching Weasel playing there and some other folks, but it was fun, and we did that for a while. While I was in grad school, and really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and we were able to pay the bands well because our space was pretty cheap. And then shout out to Jay Matheson of Brandy and the Butcher. Jay from Jam Room, he also does live sound, and he had a nice PA system that he put together for us. It was like a powered mixer with maybe 8 channels and some nice mics and stands. and a couple of main cabinets, maybe on stands or something like that. So pretty much a vocal PA. But for that particular room, if we just push vocals, and back in the day, the punk bands, they had big amps and stuff, and they handle the stage volume. We usually like mic the bass drum, overhead for the drums, vocals. It would sound great. And he would charge us like $75 to rent that system. So by the time, let's say we had 100 people in there, made $400, paid 75 for the system. We were able to pay the bands, pretty good money, a couple $100 each or something like that. So it was a nice way to really get to hear some great music, and to promote new music, and help some of the bands get out and play a little bit. And then we would play every once in a while as well, which was a lot of fun.
Right. And you guys just recently did your very first show live in 27 years. Is that correct? Over
Yeah,
27.
we're pretty sure it's 27. It could be like 26 and 11 and a half months or something like
Yeah.
that. We've kind of pinpointed it to about 27 years, and that was in Myrtle Beach, at Fresh Brewed Coffee House. And shout out to the folks at Fresh Brewed and Myrtle Beach shows for putting that on. And so that was a lot of fun. We played with Circuit, and they're a great young local band. They're probably 19, 20 years old, pretty young. And then we brought Brandy and the Butcher, and then we played with our friend Michael Wood, who is the electronic artist, Heavy for the Vintage, but he's also the lead singer of Something About Vampires and Sluts, and they're getting ready to do a reunion show as well. So It was
Awesome.
fun. Local Myrtle Beach show, and a great crowd, and really cool venue. Fresh Brewed Coffee House. It's a faith-based coffee house. They have all kinds of hardcore shows and stuff in there, and really good coffee. Really good coffee. So
Yeah. What made that night so special to you, knowing that's the first show you've ever played in, or not ever, but in over 27 years?
Well, in that 27-year time frame, I dreamed, literally for real, dreamed that night, asleep dreaming about playing again with BedlamHour, and what that was going to be like. And it was way, way beyond even what I dreamed. It was so fun because I had a lot of old school punk rock friends from the Myrtle Beach scene from back in the day there that night. And folks had driven from multiple states, hours and hours to get to this show. A lot of folks that used to work road crew for us on tour, drove from Asheville, Virginia, all these places, Atlanta. So that was so cool. And it was really fun too, because Circuit, the guitar player for Circuit, his dad is Derelict, the guitar player for Bazooka Joe.
Oh,
And
cool.
toured with Bazooka Joe, and we probably played, I don't know, gosh, 50, 100 shows together or something over that first run. And so it was so cool to see River, his son, up there just rocking out. And we just love Circuit. They're really, really good. And it was just a very positive night, and it was fun. And of course, Dylan got to sing with us, which was really, really fun. And then I had friends from work there, my teacher friends, and oh man, and it was so cool too. So on that song, I think we're going to talk about a little bit later, Uncle Sam Slam, Kashi Mashi, that death metal part, the Kashi Mashi part. So at my school, I work at a charter school, and it's project-based learning. And so one of my students, he's actually my student and my friend and my bandmate. I played drums in his band at school. His project this year, along with his best friend, was a Nirvana project, and so they put together a Nirvana cover band, and I played drums for that, for a school project. So he came up and did the death metal part, and his dad was there, and his brother was there. His dad was out in the pit moshing, and oh man, it was cool. So it was cool to have sort of my school family there, along with my punk rock family, and I just had nothing but love in my heart, just for everybody there and for what was going on. And really, really happy with the sound that night and how the band sounded. And it was just, it was heavenly, to be honest.
Right. And I was gonna say that you guys can do everything that I've ever seen any hardcore band do. But what stands out, I think, with you guys is that you guys keep it clean. You don't swear, you don't say anything offensive, anything bad. Is there any reason that you guys wanted to do that? Just for the children or everybody listening? Is there any reason?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for it, to be honest. As the principal songwriter and lyricist, I just wanted to be more thoughtful this time about what I was saying. I mean, I'll stand behind anything I've recorded or said before, and out of 175 songs I've recorded, maybe two have the F bomb. It's just really strong when it's used, and so uh, I just I just don't want to swear in my music like
Yeah.
that. It's just not for me. If somebody wants to do it, that's great. It's just, life's about choices and priorities, and it's just not a priority of mine to swear in the music. And plus, uh, we got bitten in the butt pretty bad last time with that. I'll tell you why. Because on the Rock the Cradle record, that is it's a beautiful record, and the songs are fun and everything's cool. But our signature song never got played on commercial radio because it had an F bomb in it. And so, I kind of learned a hard lesson with that. It's like, nothing wrong with it. If somebody wants to do that, that's fine for them. But it's going to definitely, keep your exposure low. And so, and the other thing too is, I'm a teacher. I work with kids. I'm a granddad. It's just not for me. So it's funny. I've had kids ask me before that, we're doing, starting a band or something like that. What advice do you have if they're doing like a death metal band or something? Well, if you really want to know, try to keep your music clean because you're going to get more airplay and
Right.
more listen that way. I said, if you really feel like you have to cuss, just let your music do the cussing.
Of course. Yes.
And I'm still sensitive to it. I was listening to the live record today, and they're on Stand Up and Fight. Uh, we're going to have our fight and say, but it does sound cussy still. So I'm like, oh no, the way I hit it, it sounds a little cussy, but
Yeah.
I think we're all right. So, but yes, that's really it. I just don't want to. For me personally, it's just not what I want to do. I don't need to swear in my music, and it's kind of funny. I joke about it. I try not to swear in my life, which is funny because everybody out there that knew me in my 20s, that's all I did was swear in my life. But it's kind of funny. I was sometimes I joke about it, like with my students and stuff. They talk about swearing, like, you swear, smoker. I try not to. The only people that make me swear, and I haven't done it in a couple of years, my own children will make me swear when I'm frustrated. I'm not. Maybe I won't swear at them, but talking to Ms. Walker, I might say, "Oh, blankety blank blank," but I haven't done that in a couple of years because they're out of the house. So hey,
Yeah.
I'm chill.
Well, you say I'd love to break down that song, Uncle Sam Slam and Kashimashi, and would that be okay with you?
Oh yeah, I think we played that one.
Look
Let's
at
see,
that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That was number 16 in Columbia.
Boom.
Number 16.
You guys
Look
came
out.
prepared.
We're going to a festival in October. Look out, kids. This is what we're playing.
Everyone look.
Look, memorize these. All the lyrics are online. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. So in this song, you say staying regular, more important than ever, starting off my day right, more important than ever. And you say that you mean, oh, look at that. Awesome. And you say that you mean everything you say. So in the next line, you say 40 years ago I made the hardcore scene. Now I'm on 6 medicines and a CPAP machine.
That's right.
Could you tell me what you mean by the 40 years ago I made the hardcore scene?
Yeah, that's the old timey way of saying I used to go out to shows. Because like in the 80s, like, hey man, you're gonna make the scene. That means you're gonna go out to the show that night, go hang out with the cool people and all that kind of stuff and stay
Yeah.
up late. So to make the scene means to go out and be seen, go be a part of the scene, make the scene, man. So yeah, and what a scene it was. What a scene it was. 1983, Columbia, South Carolina, man. What a great year to be a freshman in college. So the hardcore bands at the time that were around, and any kind of like alternative punky kind of bands. I can tell you who I used to hang with when I made the scene. There was a band called Death Row. It was Larry Zarnicki on bass, Laura Van Houten on vocals, Chelsea Snellgrove on drums, and Bill on guitar. And they had a single called, well, they had a cassette album called Burn This Town. And they were kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard of MDC or The Offenders or some of these early 80s kind of political hardcore bands,
I might
Maximum.
have.
Okay, they were kind of along that vein, kind of anarchist, communist, political band. Really nice people, really, really fun folks. And, I had been up at that Sun Sound Studios with my buddy Jake Hunter, our record producer for that song Teacher. And Jake was actually in Metaphysical and the Membranes with me back in the day as well. So everybody liked that recording. And so I was talking to Laura because she was a friend of mine. She said, hey, where did you guys record that record and everything? And I told her it was my buddy Jake at Sun Sounds in Rock Hill. So Death Row went up there and recorded their album. And it was just a fantastic record. So I used to see them play all the time. And Larry was cool. Larry was from DC. And so he would go home on break and stuff like that. And he would tell me about Minor Threat and Marginal Man and all these bands. It's kind of cool. And then the other band that I used to go see all the time was this band called the Blogos. And they were kind of in the vein of Gothic, Killing Joke, The Cure. They had really tribal drums. Really great band. John was their lead singer and guitar player. And so I used to go see the Blogos all the time. And these bands really they were older than me. So they took me under their wing. Death Row and the Blogos. I'd go see early Bachelors of Art back in the day. My buddy Robin, their lead singer, she was at our show in Myrtle Beach. It was so cool to see her and meet her husband. And so those were the early bands I used to go see in the scene. And then around 84, that place called The Beat opened up. And they started getting a lot of really super cool bands in there, a lot of good touring bands. In fact, I think your dad might have gone to a show there with
Okay.
Brian. Black Flag 1985 was there. In fact, I posted a picture on Instagram. I was at that show as well, just like you do. I was right down front, brother. And
Oh yeah.
I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, because I was about 120 pounds and, skinny as a rail and 5'7". I was like, oh my gosh, all these big people behind me acting a fool and everything. So yeah, so that was kind of what was going on at the scene. And then the Grove Cafe was a really cool place. And they would get great bands in there. So Sonic Youth played in the Grove Cafe. Let me show you how big the Grove Cafe is. No joke. Okay. So here's my living room.
Right.
That's how big the Grove Cafe was with Sonic
gosh.
Youth in there. So that was cool. And there was a fellow named Carl Singmaster. He started Manifest Records. And Carl was a promoter and did a lot of shows. And he put us on a bunch of really good shows. So we got to play with Meat Puppets and Butthole Surfers. We got to play with Sham 69. And then things really kind of picked up for us in 1986 when 7 Seconds of Verbal Assault came to town. And I met Kevin. He's a delightful, wonderful person and still a good friend, and gave him our demo. And then we got signed to Positive Force. And that's how that whole Positive Force, 7 Seconds, Youth of Today connection happened.
Right. And so I'm going to move on over to Quest for Truth. Does that go with you?
Sure.
Perfect. So in this song, you say, keep loving, keep thinking, keep hoping on our perpetual quest for truth. Could you explain that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. So this kind of goes back to the theme of encouragement and just trying to give people something to think about and something to encourage them at the same time. And the idea that we're all on this planet alive at the same time. We're all on this journey together. So encouraging everybody to, to seek out truth and seek out their destiny, really. And so that's what that song's about. And, everybody's journey is going to look a little bit different, but we're all on that quest.
Right. And when I heard about this song, my dad had actually told me that he was jumping on that song with you. At that time, I don't think I had ever really listened to you guys like I do now. I knew who you were from, my dad telling stories, but he was like, I think I was at work and he was like, yeah, I'm on a song with an old friend of mine named Chuck Walker. And he immediately showed me and I was like, wow, I thought it was awesome. What made you guys want to get my dad and Mr. David on there?
Well, when I wrote that song for the new record, I was thinking about your dad's singing style because he's always been very inspirational to me and just Stretch Armstrong as far as their music goes. And then, coming back from the 80s, positive hardcore singing and playing with Youth of Today and Token Entry and bands like that, 7 Seconds, I just thought that it would be great to have your dad and David on there, because not only are they my music brothers and my friends, but their style of music I thought fit well with that particular composition. And when I was thinking of those lyrics and thinking of that delivery and those syllables of those lyrics, actually, as I was writing the song, I was thinking about your dad's singing style and how he might do it. And so it was inspirational to me. So it just made perfect sense to bring your dad on board. And also, you were talking about bands that keep it clean. Stretch Armstrong's done a good job of that as well. And so I thought bringing them on board for that song would not only be appropriate, but it would really enhance the music. And as you saw live and participated in it, it really did. It made the song way better than it would have been otherwise.
Right. And so you used to run a group called Mosh All Productions. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Mosh All Productions was basically, at the time, our manager Angie Whitworth and myself and Adam, our bass player, we would put on shows, and sometimes those might be Ape City shows, and sometimes they might be in a different place. So so Ape City was '90s, early '90s. Before Ape City, we would use this place called S&J's sometime on Rosewood and put bands in there. And so and Angie Whitworth, our manager at the time, she actually worked with Positive Force back in Reno, and she was actually the layout designer for our record, and had worked with 7 Seconds and had been like their tour manager and stuff. So when bands would be on tour, and they would call us if they wanted a show in South Carolina, basically, if they were bands that were part of our scene. So and then we would generally trade shows with them. So for example, King Face from Discord Records off Washington D.C. They wanted to do a show in South Carolina, so we got them a show, and then we were able to play with them up at the 930 Club in D.C. Youth of Today came through like that. Verbal Assault, really good band from upstate New York called Wolfpack, and their manager Dave Stein was a friend of mine, because he was road manager for 7 Seconds and Justice League on one of the tours we were on, and we had stayed friends. And it's funny because I was always straight edge, but he was the first person that really kind of talked to me about vegetarian stuff. Now, I'm personally not currently vegetarian, but he raised a lot of about animal rights and stuff, on that tour. So, we had stayed close, and so he brought Wolfpack down, and Dave actually was instrumental in helping the guys in Earth Crisis get formed up later on. So, just a lot of good, talented, fun bands at the time would come down, and we would usually put those under the blanket of Mosh All Productions, and we would handle promotion and making sure there was PA and stuff like that. So and they would usually stay at our house.
Right.
So kind of how that worked.
What made you want to do that? Was it just your love for music, having you're in a band and all, and just thinking I would love to keep giving back? Is that sort of correct?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because, well, it's the same today. I mean, even now, I mean, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? I mean, it's a DIY. So there was a need there, and nobody was meeting that need. And the need was to get those bands a place to play and a place to sleep, and a hot meal, and hopefully pay them decently. And the benefit for us was that we loved the music, and also they helped us out when we were on the road. So it's just part of that larger hardcore community and the DIY ethic, and it's still the same today. I'm glad that technology and stuff has helped me a lot. Basically, if you have really good Wi-Fi in a UPS store, you can do this.
Yeah.
So, nobody, look, this is the bottom line when it comes to this kind of stuff. Nobody's going to love my music more than me, and nobody's going to care more than me. I mean, that's just reality. So it's up to me and our team, our band, to make it happen. And so we are a team. I mean, Derek is a fantastic producer. So is Brian, our guitar player. And so, Brian produced our studio album, and Brian and I are on a journey together. We're also in a cover band called Small City Rock. We do 60s garage rock.
Oh,
and
cool.
So, he's given me everything he's got as a producer to put this record out. Derek just produced our live album and videoed some of the stuff that's going to be in the live concert film. Videoed all of it actually, and there's going to be a whole nother film crew coming in with other things. So and Derek spent days upon days producing that video and that record. And these guys are doing it with love in their heart. I mean, there's really it's not about the money. I mean, we want to make enough money to pay for our travel and stuff, but these guys are doing this, basically for free, sharing their talent to make this happen. Which as a friend, I'm just honored because I go to my rehearsal studio and I write these songs and present the songs to the guys, and they're taking time off of work and missing pay and stuff like that to make this happen. And so we are a team, but it's DIY and it's the only way it's going to happen. So and I love it. I love the challenge of it. I've always been I think it's the teacher in me. I love organizing. I love planning events. I love design. I love props. Let me put this on real quick.
Oh yeah.
And I love to read. So if you're in a rock band and you want to really get inspired, I recommend The Lives of Brian. Brian Johnson of AC/DC. It's his story of how his journey unfolded as a singer. Really, really, really good book. And
I'll have to check that out.
Our player, Brian, who is our record producer. So here we go. So you have to have props. You have to engage the audience, even on a podcast. So now I'm going to portray this character. Oh, it's really hurting my nose. So you saw that. And you have to promote. So kids, if you're under 58, eat the sugary cereal. But if you need to stay regular and you have $6, buy this kind.
Yeah, so you are, understand, a very big cereal fan.
Yeah, we're really into cereal. It's funny because some bands might, oh no, our newest release fell on the floor. Some bands might be serial killer bands. We're just cereal bands.
Yes, of course. And yeah.
Yeah, and so be sure, kids, River Monster Records, buy yours today. Or you can get this cool new 7-inch split with Brandon the Butcher, Uncle Sam Slam, Kashimashi. So these are so cool. Check this out. This is a litho cut. So look at that.
Oh, cool.
Like super rare. They only made 40 of them.
Yeah.
So you can be a part of history, kids. Get yours today.
Awesome. What is your favorite cereal? I've never asked anybody this, but what is your favorite cereal? If you could rank your favorite 3 cereals, what would you put? Let's start number 3, 2, and then 1.
Okay, that was number 1. Let me set the cap. Come on, let's go look. Oh, Mama says there's nothing in there. I think we're gonna have lame cereal. Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. You saw it first.
Of course, I've never had an interview that anyone has stood up and gave me like a point of view. So let's see it.
Well, we've got Frankenberry for our next couple of shows in there. So
right.
There's some Uncle Sam. I think we have lame stuff that we inherited from relatives, but God bless them. That was sweet of them to give it to us when they came to the beach. But we got a massive thing of Cheerios.
Awesome.
Okay, so as far as cereal goes, I would say number 3 is Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes.
Of course. That's I like that.
Number 2, Cocoa Pebbles.
Ooh, I'm more of a Cocoa Puffs kind of guy.
Oh, okay. So one of my kids would only eat Cocoa Puffs for like 14 years and then had to take them. But now she's back into it. But number 1, drum roll, please. Hang on, let me do a drum roll. By the way, I'm propping you up against the opener.
Okay, thank you.
Single stroke roll. Thinking better.
Wow. And what made you get into that? Did you start eating that as a kid and just fell in love with it?
Yeah, yeah, I gotta say, this is a weird artwork, right? So
It
the
is,
X
but it's really cool.
rated looks high as a kite in that picture. I don't know. I'm not sure. Frankenberry, talk to me, baby. What's going on?
Sponsorship.
I don't know.
We'll get them
Anyway,
on.
well, here's how it happened. So there was a really great band called Anti-Schism, and they were a really good punk rock band, crustcore, anarcho punk band. Awesome. My buddy Chris Bickle put them out on his label, and they blew up. I mean, like big time band. But they were friends of mine, and Scott and Liz from the band were over one day. We were hanging out. This was in the fall of 1987 on Duncan Street, 2825 Duncan Street in
Okay.
Columbia, in an unair conditioned garage apartment. But fall in Columbia is beautiful, and it was breezy that day. The windows were open, and we were sitting around. And we were kind of hungry. It was like 2 in the afternoon, kind of just talking. I said, "Man, I think Scott said I could really go for some fruity pebbles right now." And listen, yeah, I was like, I could go for some cocoa pebbles. So we went to the Food Lion and bought those pebbles, and we sat there and ate that pebble cereal that day. And so that was kind of like the first connection to cereal and punk rock for me, I guess. And then spring of that same school year, so it'd be spring of '88, our drummer Brent and I were sitting in that same apartment, 2825 Duncan Street in Shandon. And it was a breezy spring day. The windows were open. And Brent said, "Man, I could go for some cereal." I said, "How about Frankenberry?" He's like, "Yeah." So we went and got Frankenberry. We're sitting there eating Frankenberry in my apartment in the afternoon. And I said, "Let's write a song about this." So Brent and I actually co-wrote the lyrics for that song. It's like President Bush was the president at the time. President Bushaka. President, because I had already written the music. So the
Yeah.
music was da 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 da. The reason I wrote that music is when we played CBGB's, I noticed some of the bands were doing that heavy New York breakdown stuff. And then also earlier when I was in DC, I'd seen Anthrax play, and I liked their riffs. And I was like, I'm gonna write something kind of heavy. And so I wrote that. I was trying to write the heaviest thing I could think of, and that was it at the time. And so with President Bush fit. President Shaka told me the other in the Food Lion, because we'd just been a Food Lion next to the gravy train.
Oh my goodness. That's
He
actually
said,
really funny.
and I think and then we used a word back then that wasn't homophobic, because I love everybody. I love everyone, but it was a bad word I won't say now, and it starts with a G. So we're going to say lame. And I think he's lame. I said, "Eat lead." Then I blew him away. And the rest is history. So that's how that song came up. That's how that song came about.
Awesome. So, as you are a big fan of cereal, I have some lyrics that I'm going to say the first two lines, and I would love for you to finish them. If
Oh,
that's
let's
okay with
go.
you.
Let's go.
Frankenberry, Boo Berry.
Yummy mummy, Count Chocula.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So we thought, well, all those flavors are wonderful. But when we were writing the song, Brent and I were talking about the song, let's make it like an epic battle,
Yeah.
but these superpowers. So Frankenberry freakouts rule the floor. Count Chocula's mother was can't say it now, but it means a lady of the night.
Yes.
Blueberry army in the rear. It's ninja time. Your daddy's here. So strap on your boots and drop your drawers. The organ grinder will mop the floors. This is an all-out kung fu war, a grasshopper master soup du jour. And then let's
I
listen.
love that.
Oh, they switched up the ingredients. He's protein, vitamin A, vitamin C, niacin. Then it was like thiamine, iron, calcium, pantothenic acid. That's all that was in it. Now it's whole grain corn, cornmeal, sugar, corn syrup, dextrose, canola, and or sunflower oil, tricalcium phosphate. Ooh, that would be really hard to write a song. Maybe I'll write a sequel. I'll have to get one of my death metal people to help me.
Hey, if you ever need anyone, let me know.
Hey, okay.
I make a little bit of music. Me and some friends record sometimes. I do some recording with a friend of mine, Blake and Sal. and Blake plays bass, Sal plays guitar, I play the drums, and we actually did a cover of "Fix Me" by Black Flag.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so I'll have to send that to you. I'll send it to you. We yeah, Sal sang the whole thing while I was playing drums and everything. We recorded it. It wasn't very professional, but like the recording, but it does the job. I've got some mics over there, and oh, you can see I'm actually right there. I don't have like
Oh, yeah.
everything
That's
plugged in
cool.
right now. Yeah, so I've got those all, and we just play, and we worry more about playing than recording, if that kind of makes sense. We're not doing
Yeah,
it for the
sure.
recording portion. We're just playing, and whatever gets recorded is what we're going to use and gets recorded.
That's fun.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite hardcore band, like of
Oh,
all time?
of all time. So
Yes.
hard. Such a hard question. Well, my gosh, it's going to have to be 7 seconds. If I can only pick one, it's
Okay.
got to be seconds.
Like, and that's like the band. If you had to listen to one band for the rest of your life, would it be them?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What's your favorite song
Consistent,
by them?
good, great singing, great lyrics, great guys, fun music. You can remember the songs. There's some melody there, but it's still fun and heavy. You can dance to it. So I would say 7 seconds. But if you gave me five, can I do five?
Yeah, for sure.
Bad Brain, Minor Threat, Agnostic Front, 7 seconds, Stretch Armstrong. That's the five.
Oh, look at that. And once I make a band, then it'll be me, obviously.
There you go. Exactly. Those are the five for sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Always inspirational. Yeah. Always consistently good. All of those bands, even if their style changes a little bit, they're still bringing their A game to everything they do. And all of those bands have integrity, which, I respect.
Right. Who's your dream band to play with?
BedlamHour.
BedlamHour. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. But if I could play with anybody else, I don't know, man. I'd probably play drums for somebody, I guess.
Yeah.
Drums for Bad Brains for one night would be nice. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Earl, if you
What
ever need a break, call me. I'll fill in one night.
what about like on a card, like on a show? Like if you could maybe open up or someone could open up for you, what band would you like to be there?
Oh wow, we've already done that. So in our
Oh,
career,
cool.
open for Fugazi, 7 Seconds, Youth of Today. Uh, gosh, we've played with so many great bands. Uh, we played with Stretch. Nowadays, let's see. Oh, well, Anthrax would be nice.
Boom.
I,
That should be pretty easy. Yeah, that I mean that should be pretty easy, shouldn't it?
I don't know. I do
We'll
love
have
them.
to see.
They're good guys.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Walker, I have one more question for you, and I appreciate you for doing this with me, and I'm gonna make sure this is the one that you really have to think about. What
Okay.
what would you say is your message to the world? To the whole world, what is your message?
Don't give up. There's
I love
always,
that.
don't give up. There's always love. You're never trapped. You're never trapped. We're in this together. We can support each other. We can get through this life together and live life to the fullest.
Yes,
So
sir. Awesome. Well, Mr. Walker, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna get this video up soon. I'm gonna post this on YouTube as well. And I love the background and everything. I've never had anyone with such a nice background. And
well, full tour though. So there's Frankenberry. You remember him from, because I saw your Instagram and that was over at the merch booth there.
yeah.
You got to meet Dylan, I'm sure. And we've got our a promotional poster. Oh, let me turn this little camera thingy around. Hang on. Listen, you only have one shot. I'm a teacher, so I have to engage, visual learners. So we got Frankenberry, and of course, my wife's coastal motif here. We live by the water over here. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really appreciate your time. Now, how can I watch this?
So it'll be up on YouTube and Spotify, the Revive podcast, and then on YouTube I post the uncut video version. So like on Spotify, I kind of trim it down to like no dead space where there's no like silence. It's just like the whole everything. And then on YouTube, I post them with everything in it, and you can see the video, and it's like completely uncut.
Okay, hey, that's super cool. And you can call me Chuck. You don't have to call me Mr. Walker.
Okay, I just, you never know. As you're a teacher, I don't want anyone seeing this, and you know.
Man, don't worry about that. Those kids know, they know the deal. It's totally no problem.
Well, Chuck, I thank you so much for being on here. I'm going to get this episode out very soon, and I'll make sure that you are a very big part of this podcast.
Well, I am so honored that you asked me to do it, and I do want to make a show announcement before I leave. We are
Oh,
playing
perfect.
a festival in Savannah, Georgia, October 21st, Fink Fest, and
Awesome.
Missing Records is going to be releasing this album, Win $1 Billion, on 12-inch vinyl, limited edition, and it should be available at the show. We'll be playing there. I know Electric Frankenstein's playing, some other label mates from Missing Fink Records, and also a shout out to River Monster Records, Larry Parker. Larry, we love you so much. Thank you for all you're doing. Johnny Fink, thanks for all you're doing. And thank you, everybody out there. And Owen, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
today.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Walker.